So what I'd like to do today is to share a couple of our experiments from different stages in a customer's journey in the hopes that it might give you some ideas for your own products and your own customers as well. Now, as a designer, I care about our customers and I care about problems that they're having, and it frustrates me when we haven't quite solved them yet. And it frustrates me when we actually have solved them, but because our interfaces are complex or complicated, people don't even realize it. So what I see happening is that whatever product you're working on, your customer's experience goes through three main phases. First, it doesn't even begin with the product. It begins with a problem. The customer has a problem somewhere in the world, somewhere in the universe, and they start thinking about solutions. Oh, yeah. I'm going to hold this, actually. It's a prop. So basically, they have some problems. They start exploring through the universe to see how to solve that problem. They discover your products. They discover our products. They give them a whirl. They give them a shot and see, are they actually going to solve that problem? And finally, they start moving into using that product in depth. I'm going to share a couple examples today from experiments in each of these phases. So let's start with exploring. So when you have a problem, what do? When you're at work, you think, there's got to be a better way to do this. This thing is driving me nuts. What most people do is they look around and they might talk to their coworkers. Most likely, a lot of people just go straight to the internet and start searching. Now what happens is when they search, different results come up, and they click on them and they go straight into a particular page. Here's an example of a page that we have in our Atlassian website. This is our original page for the Jira Service Desk. Now, it's using the format that we've used in the past and seemed to be working decently, but basically it had a couple issues. As you scroll through this page, you'll notice that it's Jira Service Desk, and we've got a lot of features. Now think about a customer. We're showing them screenshots. We're showing them, hey, look, it's got powerful SLA, and why Jira Service Desk? Oh yeah, look there, and there's even some more screenshots, and it has clear visibility of SLA. That's awesome. But again, it's kind of a feature. It has user experience. I care about user experience. That's great. But basically, it's real-time performance as well. They keep on going. It's feature after feature, screenshot after screenshot, and then they're done. Now, our team had a hypothesis. Our marketing guys came back and said, are we selling too much? Are we really all about features, or are we actually about our customers, and what do our customers have? They have problems. So what if instead of having these pages be all about the features and the functionality and, hey, look, we're great, why don't we instead have it be focused on the end user? We thought, hey, that's worth a shot. So basically, the team got together, and we had a nice little cross-functional team, a tiny little set of people, someone in design, someone in copywriting, people in marketing, to come together and say, hey, look, what if we told a story on this page instead of saying a bunch of and just showing a bunch of screenshots and tooting our own horn about all of our SLA and other requirements and features that we have? So we did that. Launching this week at Summit, we have a new Jira Service Desk product tour. It's going to look a little bit different from the one that I'm showing you right now. It's going to have slightly different photos and a couple different graphical elements, but the basic concept is there. What we're doing is actually, basically we're saying, hey, look, instead of about features, let's actually meet Jill. Now, Jill's a customer. She's got a problem, and she's starting to use the interface. She's coming in, and she's starting to click around. There's Nick. Nick's a service desk agent, and he's using the interface to actually try to solve that problem. Then it introduces Ruth, who's going to be coming in soon and checking in on Nick. What we're doing here is we're telling the story of these different people that are involved in Jira Service Desk. And what we're trying to do, and this was our hypothesis, and we didn't know if it was going to work, was if we talked more in terms of the story and the problems that people are having and how Jira Service Desk could solve them, maybe we'd actually get people understanding this new product and following along with that story more. So we tried it out. We said, hey, look, let's still have screenshots. They seem to be useful for a lot of people to give a good idea of what's going on. Let's make them a little bit more engaging. Let's try to have a little bit of animation showing what the users are doing and in what kind of context. Let's tell the story. Here's Ruth at the end. She's very happy. Customers are saying a lot of things about Jira Service Desk, and you can go ahead and try it. The team was super proud of this, and rightly so. It's a very clean, gorgeous design. It's all about this narrative. But in the end, the proof is in the pudding. So we said, all right, instead of testing this and seeing what success is in terms of how many people are actually clicking the try button, what if we said success is actually how many people are reading through this story and learning more about Service Desk? Because that initial context that you can give your customers can give you all the grounding that they need to go through those first little unfamiliar steps with a new product. So by giving this context, we're hoping, are people actually engaging with our content? To test engagement, what we decided to do was to use heat maps. So imagine these two really long pages that you just saw, the before and the after. Imagine them as a heat map, where at the top of the page, above the fold, tons of people are coming there, landing there from a Google search, saying, oh, that's interesting. Nice and hot. It's red hot because tons of people are coming. Now, if they're not very engaged, they're going to start leaving like flies as soon as they start moving below the fold. It's going to get, at a heat map, it's going to get colder and colder. It's going to get green and then eventually blue. So let's see what happens. This is our original product page. If you notice, for those of you who are colorblind, basically it starts off red hot, and then there's a note saying 54% of users get this far. This is where the page actually starts to turn to green because it's cooling off. Fewer and fewer people are actually seeing that bit because everyone else has bailed. When you get to the very bottom, we only had 2% of our users actually scrolling the whole way through all those wonderful features and screenshots that we had. So we might have been proud of them, but our users were not engaged. So we tried to see, well, what's it like with this new product tour that's all about the narrative? This is the new narrative style page, and it's basically a very slow, gradual rainbow of colors. It starts red because it's above the fold, but it stays yellow. It stays hot, pretty darn hot, almost the whole way down the page. It's not till near the bottom that you get to the same point, the 54% of users, that you did on the original page up at the top. At the very bottom, you can see that 46% of our users got to the bottom of the page. That's a 46% increase in engagement. It was statistically significant. It's huge. So what we learned here with this one story from our exploring phase is that there's a power of the narrative. There's a power of this story and telling those stories over just screenshot and feature by feature. It's all about kind of getting that engagement and getting their understanding about what you're going to do to prepare them for when they start to use your product. We also thought about the continuity of the thread, the fact that you're coming from a Google search. You may never even heard of the product name before you clicked on the link. So you want to continue that more in the line of what's the customer's mental model. And that's they have a problem and they're looking to solve it. They want to hear the story of how we're going to solve that problem. Next, I'd like to move into trying. So we've gone through exploring, and they're now ready to give it a shot. Now, when you're trying a product, the most important thing you want to have is that you want to try out the experience that's going to be suited to you. You don't want to be trying something that you don't even get to the features and functionalities that pulled you in the first place. Instead, you want it as useful for yourself as possible. We've been doing a lot of experiments trying to improve this trial experience for our customers, and I want to share with you one of those stories. This is our behind the firewall installer for Jira Service Desk, actually for Jira. So here you are, when you're trying to install Jira behind the firewall, you have to go through a bunch of steps. It's not too bad. Basically, you click through here, you enter a little bit of information, you go to the next screen, you set up some application stuff, you go to the next page, you specify your license key, and you're done. Now, for Jira, this actually, it still needs to be improved, but it was doing okay. But what wasn't doing as well is that our Jira Agile, our Jira Service Desk, those guys, no one was actually getting to the point of trying them. They might have had the problems that those tools would solve, but they actually didn't discover it. We had trials up at the very top on the website, but by the time they got here, They just got into the meat of Jira and never emerged from that morass. So what we did is we decided to add a new screen to our installer. And this was a total risk. We were just like, all right, let's try it. We'll see what happens. So we intentionally added an additional step in this installer flow where we tried to have them customize their experience. Because our theory was if you personalize the experience to the problems that you're having, you actually might have a better experience. We intentionally used very user-friendly terms here. So this isn't all techie, instead it's more about their context of use. I'm using Jira for project tracking, or for development, or for an IT service desk. We also didn't want to hide the fact that these are products. So we wanted to clarify, hey, look, this is going to be trying out Jira plus Jira Agile. And we wanted to give a little bit of context for each of those selections, again, to kind of reassure the user. So what happened when we added this additional step to the installer? Our original service desk installation, our attachment rates to Jira was 7.5%. It was decent. Once we tried this, we actually got to a significant number of 10% increase. So we actually had 10% of people installing Jira Service Desk once we added this step in the installer. In the same way, with Jira Agile, about 39% of an attachment rate for Jira, which is decent. Once we added this step, we increased up to 44%. We're very happy with this. These are very significant, and we're more happy for it because this is the trial experience. It's when the users are playing with these things to see if it's going to solve their problems, and we're helping them choose when they're ready. We're trying to say it's about customizing and personalizing that experience, and it's all about the context of use. Now, my favorite example of context of use for the week, I think, is the badges that you might have seen. It's thinking about, you're not designing these things in isolation. You're designing them for when they're hanging down from your neck, and someone else wants to be able to read your name, and they can actually read your name horizontally. You're also designing them for when they pick them up, you can actually open them up and start reading them. So these kind of nice little touches that our design team created are really adding things all around the context of use and thinking about that context of use no matter where you are in the product journey. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about the using of our products. So when you use our products today, all of you guys know, Atlassian products are complex. It's crazy complex. So how do we make that better? Well, we've been very concerned about this, especially with regard to many of our key evangelists and spokespeople, which are a lot of the people here, all of you guys. A lot of you end up getting the brunt of questions from your team. How do I do this? How do I do that? Help! We worry about that. And we want to try to help for you and get those new users off to a great start. So at Atlassian, we've started to have a really deep focus on our first experiences for our first user, our second user, third user, all in the system, and trying to do some experiments to try to make that as good as we can. So we've been trying different things and saying, I think this should help. Can we find out for sure? This is an example of one of our experiences for Jira. So when a new user comes into Jira, we're trying out an experience where they start to get a walkthrough, a little bit of a guided tour where they actually have to do a couple things. They have to click the button and create an issue. They create an issue and they type some information into it. Reasonable enough. Here they are. There's a little tooltip on the right-hand side about creating a sprint. So this system is really walking them through how do you use Jira to try to offload the effort and the work on you guys. So we're trying to help. You created a sprint. You can plan your sprint. So you can start dragging and dropping these elements and start moving ahead from there. And finally, you can estimate your issues. So then we're pretty proud of this. We thought, hey, look, this is helping everyone get started with Jira as quickly and easily as possible. But it's starting to feel like a lot. Are we going too far? Are we helping people too much? This may be crazy, but what if we actually removed some of that help? What if we actually removed a step that we were giving to our users? What would happen? Well, we tried it. We said, what if this very last step, we just got rid of it entirely? Because honestly, we're going to be happy if you're creating issues, if you're starting to plan your sprint, you're learning the basics. And estimating, maybe that's a little bit too much for these new users. So we got rid of this step, and we said, let's measure and see How many issues are people creating? How many issues are people viewing? Are we increasing their usage, these new users' usage with the system? What did we find? We found a 14% increase in usage after removing a step of help. To me, this was awesome because it was counterintuitive. It was realizing that, you know, help is very good, but you don't want to be the person who's just talking nonstop and the person's eyes start to glaze over and they disengage entirely. That's what we were starting to do with our these first experiences. We were so eager to help everyone, we were inundating them with too much information. Great thing to learn. And so basically what we've learned from there is that there is such a thing as the right amount of help that you can provide. You don't want to just let your users feel stupid and just sink into an interface and never discover anything. You want to help them. But you can also be too helpful. Too little help, they're lost. Too much, and they're done. So this is one of the challenges that we have and the things that we've learned with the usage part of your journey is how do you give the right amount of help for people? And we still have a long way to go. We still worry a lot about how much information can we give a new user who's never tried Jira before? How much do we give to Confluence? How do we increase engagement to get people starting to create their first page and not feel so intimidated? We don't have all the answers, but what we're starting to realize is that it's all about a balance. And it's about trying things out and being okay with failure, being okay with continually getting better and better as things go on. So these were the 3 stories that I wanted to share with you. The first was all about that power of the narrative. The stories that you're telling to your customers, with your customers, to help them go from a totally random web search where they discover your company, they discover your product, they start to click in and start to read about it. How do you keep that thread going? How do you slowly introduce the fact that you actually can solve the problem that led to their search in the first place? How do you have less about yourself and more about them? How do you get that focus on them and help them understand that you're here to help? And yes, you're a business, you need to sell, but you care too. How do you choose when ready? So once they start to move forward, how do you help them customize and personalize that experience or have the best trial that they can at the right time? And finally, as they start to move into the product, as they have their colleagues and coworkers starting to try things as well, you need to help them, both the original person as well as their colleagues, but you need to help them at the right amount so that they're not overwhelmed. Thank you, everyone.
Feeling about that didn't work out?
Oh, interesting. Okay, so the most unlikely, actually, the one that I had, actually the most unlikely experiment that yielded success, I think for me, one of the, actually, let me go the opposite one. The good feeling about that didn't work out, I had this theory. So I joined Atlassian back in December, and I thought those product pages were really crazy long. I thought there's just so much information, people are zoning out. So I credit myself with predicting that the engagement wasn't great. However, my solution to it was to cut all that content out and say, who needs that? People just need a big try button because really most of our users are all about trying things for themselves. So I cut out every single piece of content except for like one little blurb and one little screenshot, and I had a nice big try button, thinking, hey, look, let's have something. It looked decent. It was very simple. It was very clean. I even tried one with an inline form. So just you come to that page, you just sign up your information, you hit go, but almost no steps whatsoever. Now I tried that, thinking, I got it. People aren't readers. People aren't looking, investigating. People are trying this stuff out, and it bombed. It did not succeed, and I didn't bomb, but it just wasn't, I thought it was going to be this roaring success, and instead it was like, yeah, this is a wash. And what I learned there is that, especially with experiments, Your gut can be totally wrong because you're coming with your own assumptions and beliefs, and they're just not always right. Now, for the most unlikely experiment that yielded success, to me, this was one where one of the growth team, two other members of the growth team and I got into a room and were like just throwing out ideas. And I'm like, okay, maybe that long product page is okay, but I want to make sure that they can always start moving forward and trying out the product when they can. What if we had like a scrolling try button? We call it a tag along, so that as you scroll down the page, something would fade in saying, hey, look, if you're ready to try, just hit try and move forward. The other guys are like, yeah, that could be really annoying. We're not sure. Is that going to work? Let's try it out. And so it was within like the course of like 2 or 3 days, the wonderful guy, Tony Duran, like hacked this thing together. And we said, okay, let's choose one of our products. Let's try it out on our product page and see what happens. It was a huge success. I'm still torn on it, honestly, but I love the fact, I think the principle it was showing was that notion of when people are ready to move forward, they need to be able to do so. And if that button and that call to action is hidden, you're going to lose them.